kind of get right into it here. Oh, see how this goes. So, yeah, welcome back to NFGL Live, and we're doing something a little different today. We are actually going to be doing some development tool stuff, basically. Move my mic a little bit. So, basically, we have a situation to where we get to look at some very rare software, which I think is pretty cool. This being an editing system that was used previously on the Sega Saturn kart dev, which you see above. This is known as Codescape. Let me get my bro hand. Boop, 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 boop. And then get some chats going. Just feel free to chat in Discord. And I will do this for now. Yeah, so, and kind of what I'm looking to do here then is I'm not going to do so much of the usual look at chat sort of thing, play thing. I got chat stuff on the side here, but because I didn't feel like making another overlay right now, I'm kind of just reusing one. Going to have, at least above, the preview for the Saturn, which, while there's no escape from Codescape exactly, made the Saturn window a little small here, but I think kind of the bigger show is the actual editing software of Codescape. And we are going to be a little bit limited in this because this is all in Japanese for the software, at least. And for Windows 98, since I'm not going to have any real language rendering, like I got, where's it at? NJ Star Communicator will help a little bit here. For some, at least, character rendering. I mean, for the most part, we're not going to be having a lot of help in terms of the actual Japanese and kanji character sets. So the interface itself is going to look very unintuitive from a menu text standpoint. But then again, I think you'll get to see a lot of what's happening for the editor itself. And Sam, I might even lean on you a little bit since you've at least done some work in Codescape, even if it's been like lightly in terms of Dreamcast stuff. So that might become pretty helpful. First of all, documents. These are real important. Those documents are what, actually I'm gonna go to my documents for this. At least like general interface working in through Codescape, you might have a better idea than I do. You may not, but you might. We'll kind of see what happens here. But yeah, so while the nicely bound manuals, you know, they got like a little ring binding, it's all Japanese with diagrams and all that. The paper manuals themselves aren't a whole lot of help. However, in Cross Products Infinite Wisdom, they provided English PDFs on disk. So we go here, we go to say hardware, bam. And this, a lot of these directions are actually very similar to what I've seen with the kart dev documents before. That being setting up the SCSI adapter and such. So let's kind of jump in a little bit. This is all from the first release of 96, though there's some stuff dated 1997 on disk. Let's see here. We configure our SCSI adapter. This will be for other things like the Mirage CD ROM emulator would also be in a SCSI chain. SCSI select. A lot of this is some of the basic settings, and I already have this set up for the kart dev, so not super worried about that, though this sort of assumes that you'd be using something like NT or Windows 95, as you see. This was actually kind of cool, though I don't have this board. the SD RAM extended interface buffer board. So basically, the cart dev has an accessory where you expand the internal memory of your development system. The idea being that if you're doing, like, say, development on, like, porting a game, basically, you need more memory to work with what you have initially before you get it down to something that's going to fit on the Saturn. This allows you to have that as a buffer board when you're dumping builds onto the cart dev. And what's interesting, though, is that this could be used for further memory expansion if one wanted to with the Saturn all through the cartridge port, and it's not too different from what you see, like, with the 4 megabyte and the 1 megabyte memory expansions. But anyway, yeah, so that exists. How to put sims in, make sure to click, some memory map settings for that. You can, how you view the expanded memory in the debugger, setting up SCSI ID and termination for the cart dev, connecting it to a modified Saturn. That's basically the setup we're running right now, is this. Then we also have the cart dev for the Saturn programming box, which I don't have, and I am very okay with that situation. Software, here we go. We're gonna meet the requirements. I mean, it's like a 486. Yeah, make sure you have megabytes of space. Troubleshooting may or may not come into something that matters here. If it's rebooting, if the debugger sends down a monitor, cartridge is unusable, things like that. So very basic hardware stuff. Help files. This is all for, like, using the debugger itself, which in my eyes, this is the biggest boon. Like, having a coding interface to manage your source code is nice. A debugger, which I'm hoping goes beyond just assembly, but also does C code debugging, that would be really sick. Then we get some real cool stuff. Legal notice is from revision history 95, 96. Let's see, so we have files using the debugger, command switches, examples, and all of that. All this is pretty short still, too. Like, all of the cross-product documentation I run into, it's all fairly brief. Like, even the disk image itself here for Codescape, it's only 5 megs. Like, it's all pretty small. And then get into some stuff. But, like, this help menu is going to be instrumental in using the software, because otherwise I don't have any real, except for just randomly clicking menus, I'm not going to have a good idea of what goes where with the menus right now, because I just don't have a system that's going to be able to render characters for the language. It makes me really think, should I make this a Windows NT system eventually? Because at first I'm like, I don't really want to with the games and stuff I have on here, but when it comes to character rendering, that does matter. That does matter a lot. And I'm doing a lot of hokey stuff just to get Japanese characters on here. But this looks like at least a good reference for the debugger, which is good. I've been playing with 3 separate versions of Codescape on this system. There's a Codescape version you'll see eventually here, which is the Sega Saturn 1996 flavor. There's Codescape Pro, which is an install I found, and it's a full copy of Codescape Pro, except you need to have a security dongle that's going to work with it. I don't have that, so I can't boot the actual software. And then there is, where I have that buried at, down here is what was bundled with the Dreamcast, and I fiddled with some stuff, tried to copy paste some files over. I got as far as not be able to find a valid target device, and I'm hoping somewhere in here, if I were to want to actually use a different version of Codescape, the key would be, is there an argument or flag I can pass to a Codescape executable to specify a target device? Because I think right now target devices are possibly hard-coded in the executable. I haven't found any kind of registry config files that specify any of those, any of that configuration. There's different profile DLLs, which I think are profiles for certain architectures, not necessarily devices. But I haven't been able to, like, I've even tried to just do the whole Glide API mess of just rename something I know works on this device I like into one of these and see if it boots and see if it sees it. None of it really works out. So that's been hard to figure out. There's some files that are more about help files, things like that. But I don't know enough about really how Codescape as a tool configures the target devices it can see and then bring that over to memory mapping. Memory mapping is at least a little more straightforward. You have these dolly configs. So for example, let's move to the Sega Saturn that I was trying to bring over, where for a given CPU, memory mapping different commands and sizes. Shared memory and valid memory. The Dreamcast does this, Saturn tools do this, and then the off-the-shelf Codescape device, software packages for other SH processor work does this. So there's some universal aspect to it. I just don't know how it actually defines. These are the valid targets I look for upon starting up the application. If I find one of them, go ahead and run. If I can figure that out, I think that we can get away from even the Dreamcast and Saturn versions of Codescape, jump over to like a much newer Pro version, and use that and call it done. Because the compiler packages are basically the same. It's covering not just SH2, but SH3 for other flavors of the Hitachi chips. You have a vastly updated debugger and coding interface, a lot more support. Like, I think that's kind of where you want to be at. But I just don't know how these applications actually specify those. So anyway, when I look at something like a command line syntax, it allows you to change certain aspects of the session. I don't know if it might be just the debugger though. I want to get to a spot where I can hopefully, I don't know if in a given session I can specify those things. Because you have verbosity, you got project info. This is like the whole specify target thing, but then it's like similar to what you see with the command line tools for SNASM, where you're kind of passing a -T and then like different processor IDs, things like that. So I think it doesn't have to do with it needs to be able to see a target available to specify said target from a numeric value. And I don't know how that's actually specified. But if it could be done, I mean, you have command line interfaces here to set up sessions basically for different processors, different targeted systems, things like that. And then from there, this is going to go into running the menus from a text explanation standpoint. It's not visual, that kind of stinks, but this, I think, can at least help a little bit as I go through. What you'll see is the interface for Codescape. Might embed it being something, Sam, to where if you're like, here's what Codescape as an interface looks like from the Dreamcast view, and it's not too far off of what this, honestly, early version of Codescape is, that could be a reference, so I'm not like struggling with what menus are what. Anyway, so I'm going to have that, and then what I might work off of now is going to be the debugger tutorial, because I don't know how this debugger works yet. January 97 for that. Installing GNU, Codescape. I have GNU installed, so that shouldn't be too much trouble. I honestly think I have installed tutorial. I think I did install tutorial. I don't know if I wasn't sure what I was selecting when I went through the install process, but I'm pretty sure that's what I did. But I'm going to have this off to the side while we We're gonna have this off to the side while we load up Codescape, because I have my second monitor. Haha. Yeah, let's just get right into it. Codescape. So I have a security dongle in the printer port. Typically it's looking for, like right here on boot up, it's when it starts looking for IDs and everything. It sees the Saturn. I'm not sure if this will boot the Saturn into a cart dev ready state yet. I probably have to say yes. There we go. And that's typically what happens. You'll get a reboot on the system. My HDMI out is throwing a fit. Oh, hang on. Shoot. Let me fix the video out real quick. Good gosh. Ugh. Just turn it off. I find sometimes with compared to when I was working with just the command line tools, the cart dev seems to behave better with Codescape when I have this development Saturn turned off initially. You are just not behaving. Good Lord. Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to try reboot as well. I mean, as is with this kind of... Saturn, you just boot right into that, huh? Let's give us a fresh reboot. See how that goes. Okay. Everyone's complaining, that's fine. You know, it's when you do it live and to start complaining, that's really what we want to do here. There shouldn't be too much different going on. Cabling works. Saturn dev. Toolchain. I got my HDMI splitter working up here. These are all of my environment variables and things for GCC and all that. Libraries for SGL and SBL. We'll try booting this without the NJ star communicator first. Okay, we good? Okay. That looks fine. Okay. Yep. Uh-huh. We're not getting to a ready state with the cart dev. Why are we not getting to a ready state with the cart dev? Okay. So we're gonna do this then. Let's cancel. Nope. Cancel. Close. Let's shut this down real quick. We're gonna go ahead and do a hard boot on the cart dev. honestly, it happens. I also noticed my PSU was slightly under the voltage I was expecting. I don't think that's a huge deal, but I just made sure that was at a correct voltage too. I mean, next point would be reseating everything. But yeah, basically. But it's part of the complexity of this tool chain. You know, this hardware setup. I've probably had the most stability so far with the original SNASM 2 DOS-based tools in terms of just initializing the cart dev and all that. Codescape has been, sometimes the Mac has been the most unstable in terms of tools. But we'll see. We gave everything power on, power off. Otherwise, I can read the directions word for word to make sure I didn't miss anything in terms of just how to bring everything up. It's obviously talking to the cart dev when Codescape starts. It's just not booting. I mean, everything. Let me double check to make sure what's in the folder should be in the folder, because I was messing around with that before. Yeah, Satmon's in there, and that's really what we're looking for right now. So I don't think there's anything I messed up in terms of local files in Codescape. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's troublesome. That is troublesome. So it should not be doing that. Okay. So let's go ahead and we'll retry one more time. The next thing I would try is, yeah, you're having some issues, buddy. Let's go ahead and uninstall Codescape Pro. Yeah, I don't know if there's any kind of issues with this, but install. Oh, there's any kind of conflicts with Codescape at all with that. I can try a fresh install of Codescape. I may do that next, actually. Because that's just not behaving. Not one bit. Okay. Let's try a fresh install. You get an idea of what the install looks like. But that's not a bad thing. I'm going to do that real quick. Sure. Let's go to... it's been a hot minute. I gotta remember what I was doing before. Notepad++. Where do I have this at? Tell me. Oh yeah, I can bring up. Oh, so it's projects. Okay, got it. Projects. CD example. Yeah, that looks good. Sat build? Is that what I was doing? Yeah, same thing. Can't stabilize link with the Saturn. Okay. So let's shut her down. Let me reseed everything. There shouldn't have been too much that changed here. Maybe like a SCSI cable got loose when I was messing with the HDMI cable stuff before. It's very possible. Let's check it out. Door opens, door closes. And the other thing I can do is I can power off the cart dev and kill power to it altogether, just to make sure everything's clear on it. If like somehow it was the hardware was put into a funny state from my silly Codescape stuff, that's possible. You know what happens, you touch a piece of hardware, all of a sudden all kinds of hidden issues come up. And it's hard to have like a little development showcase when the hardware doesn't want to cooperate. So we'll go to known good first. That looks good. Sat build. Okay, that's what we expect. Cart dev ready. Yep. Boom. We put light on the plane. That's what I'm talking about. So now we're back into, at least from a DOS standpoint, a good state. Let's go to Codescape. Looks like it's in a good state there. File, open. And so it's looking for SSN files. These are session files for Codescape. And we're gonna go ahead and open up like a tutorial that came bundled with. This is what I use to show the Discord server, hey, look, things come up, and this is apparently a example that has not been seen before, never archived, first time, world premiere. Here we are. Spinning cube, baby. And then we just press, I think it was F1. No, that's help, sorry. What was it that I pressed to run this bad boy? What was it that I pressed? I did something before, but like, yeah, you can see, look, nice register values you can see, like everything's just great, it's gravy. Here we go. You can see what's loading into the CPU memory. Typically you're running off of a particular SH2 chip. There you go, man. This is world premiere. Tutorial.conf. It's all working off of the first processor, I believe. I'm also assuming that the performance is probably because of the number of textures they have on the surfaces here. Unless they just like underclock it too. I mean, that's certainly possible. But let's look at the main C here. So they turn off VDP2. Apparently that's a call. That's good to know. Space. These are pretty similar to what you do for spinning set cubes. I've seen like an SGL before. Oh, they're using the VDP2 split for handling the background. So VDP2 gets the background, VDP1 gets the cube. Is that kind of what we're doing here? Process the textures. And I haven't done much with texture processing yet. Hey, it's a puppy. All right. Yes, I believe that's what we have here, which is back, next, out, step in. Let's maximize this. Now, oh, let's just make new tabs. Oh, I don't want to care about that. I thought I was like stepping into stuff. That's a good question. I don't know. That would be looking at the tutorial, I think. My document just sitting right there. Well, yo, bloop. I'll bring it over to the side here. Tutorial. It's color manual. That looks nice. Let's see. So you can be at least looking through the. I haven't set breakpoints or anything. I literally, this is the first real kind of looking at the debugger and environment that I've done. Period. I know nothing about Codescape or what it can do. I literally like guessed my way into loading up the tutorial. So I saw I was looking for a session file just to demonstrate that, hey, it works with my cart dev, and that's as far as I got. So I have no idea what this does. I haven't gone through any of the... Like, I need to go through the tutorial to get a better idea of what this is doing. Again, gosh, it's so frustrating because I can see where it has target devices and where a lot of this gets configured. So you get a device target, and then you have processors you target. But I don't know how this editor, or how this, really, I guess it's just a debugger. At the end of the day, is Codescape just really a debugger? It's not even like an editor. It's not a code editor. It's just a debugger, which I'm good with. Hey, that's what I wanted. I don't really... Like, having an editor is nice. Having a sophisticated debugger for C code, much better, much more helpful. But there's gotta be a way to configure the target stuff, because you figured that out... Now you can use the newer flavors of Codescape, man. Anyway, the contents of the tutorial looks like they're covering installing your toolchain, starting the application, loading the tutorial session file, which we've done. There's some project setup you can do, source paths, which I'm assuming right now, because of what I'm using in my auto exec, that set up all the source paths for me, because I haven't done any tool configuration. I literally, what you saw me do for the tutorial, that's all I've done with Codescape, and it just worked. So, pat on the back. I set up my environment in a smart way. There you go. You can set up the source paths. They're setting up the file server, so you can set up a file server. Hey, building projects, the build project window, running the program, and then there's some things about compiling C code, linking object files, how debug information can be lost. setting up the Saturn stack, and some summary, and then some makefile stuff. So it doesn't sound like it's like too far off of some of the work I've already been doing with the other SNASM tools, honestly. We're not too far off. Let's dive a little deeper. Let's see here. So it's assuming you'll be installing stuff from the Sega DTS CDs. It's using the Cygnus or CI GNUS GNU package, which I've already been doing. Looks like there's a env file that Codescape likes to use. We've done the install tutorial, obviously, because the tutorial folder's here. Start Codescape. Open file menu, Control O, spinning cube directory, select tutorial as the session file, which we did. Session files restores a previously saved debugging session, which is going to be with source files, register, and log regions, and loads supply tutorial.conf file. So yeah, this is just purely debugger. You're going to be compiling this stuff ahead of time before, which that's fine. I literally have batch files that already do that, so I can certainly call Codescape in my CLI instead. But this also, like, what I like about this, especially having now this nicer to read memory monitor, and get a better idea of how the Saturn works. Just about being able to see registers in that regard, because I haven't had that before. This is getting closer to some of the stuff I've done before in terms of coding with like C and C++. So this all helps my little brain. Project setup. Set project on your project menu. I'm assuming P is project menu. Set up project. I'm assuming that's what this is here. So you have make files. You have make, build environment. I'm assuming these are flags you pass to the make.exe. Okay. Yeah, basically. Hey, look, there's an image. Thank you. So it's supposed to look like. I'll show you on screen. It's supposed to look like this. So you have project file, you have the program that you're using for build, aka what's going to consume your make file, your environment file, which I don't think I've messed much with environment files at all. I'm not too familiar with those. And then your command line modifier. But I digress. So yeah, you can load that up. We know how make works. You can set up your source paths, which in this case, let's see here, it's going to be setting up source paths on the project menu. Select edit source path. Where's that? Nope. Yeah, these are source paths, I think. Yep. So you have path names up here. They have directories over here, which in this case, we're loading up C and SH2. Okay. Perfect. Setting up the file root server. Set up file server path. The dialog box sets up the path for a Codescape file server library. To set up the path to the file server, on the project menu, select set file server root directory. The set file server path is displayed, which right now looks like this gives a path to a spinning cube directory. Yeah, this would be a file server directory here. So I'm not like, yeah, I guess it's technically a local directory, and that'd be what our file server is. But I guess I'm trying to remember with Windows 98 if how you can map network drives. If that's what I'd be doing for like an actual file server. Like if that's something I would be having set up in like my network neighborhood or something. But my guess is it'd probably be some sort of network volume mounted that way, and then I'd probably set up the path here for something that's going to be actually hosted. That's my guess. And then you can do Control M to make, or right click. So I'm guessing what I had done here was make all, maybe, is what happened here. That's how I started the build and ran it. Looks like, whoop, I don't want to do that. Let me go back to a different zoom on these documents. Run the program, press F9 or click the run icon. So I guess this up here is our run icon. This is possibly our stop icon. Oh, this looks like stop. Maybe these are our stepping buttons we can do for the debugger. I don't know. Again, we'll have to see. I know. All right, so one cool thing too, you can do memory dumps with this. So that's freaking cool, to where I can save off memory dumps in a file, and when I get sophisticated enough working with the hardware, I can start using that to look at some of the subsystems of the Saturn, because that's really where the challenge comes in, is what's in memory on a given subsystem on the Saturn. This at least gives me a fairly intuitive means of doing that, so that's cool. That's good. Let's see here. After loading texture images from PC, cube different bitmaps on each image, on each of the faces, which we see. I mean, we basically already did the tutorial. I loaded it up by accident. There's linkers. Honestly, most of the stuff here is set up for the tool chain that I've kind of already done. There's some explanation of certain flags, which are nice for the GNU package. That's how you link object files, which I've already been kind of doing that. Learning it the rough way. There's arguments for that. Debug information is information included in the COF, but not in the binary. This includes line numbers, source file information, symbol table, and type definitions. During the process of building a COF that you intend to debug using the Codescape debugger, it is important that you do not do any of the following, as you may lose your debug information. Use any of the O, O1, O2, or O3 switches when compiling. Use an omit frame pointer with the F command line option. So basically omitting information. Setting up the Saturn stack. By default, ID includes the Saturn startup file crt0.o in the output COF. This generic system startup file will cause a Saturn target to crash. There are two possible solutions to this, including routine, which transfers control to the main routine. Okay, so there's something with the actual program stack that you can kind of crash with the default crt0.o. That's good to know. Okay, so that's kind of a call out there. The summary gives you a brief outline of the Saturn development process using GNU, including most common switches for GCC and linker. Common pitfalls, such as using the GNU startup file. Yep. Which I think I have run into that before, actually. The need to include full debugging information, COF. Yeah, so we've covered that. A whole thing of using a make file. This probably would have been helpful before when I was trying to figure out how to put together a make file. We got there. But I still might even crib that a bit. Let's see, they give some URLs for other sources, but that's really it for the tutorial. So the tutorial is not super in-depth. So I think for the most part, the debugger, honestly, Sam, it's probably going to be me working through the Codescape debugger manual, just to get an idea of where I can put breakpoints and things like that, what are the capabilities. Because the tutorial doesn't cover them. I can tell you that much. Let's go ahead and open. SGL 1.3, or is this? Oh, I guess this is just what it's the version of SGL it's using for the spinning cube. Okay, so there is nothing else with the tutorial to look at here. We have seen what to see for the tutorial. Got it. Okay. Yeah. So I think kind of what I'm seeing, the operation doesn't look too bad to do without English. But yeah, it's gonna be reading a manual at this point. Um, Setting up Windows, it looks like. Not sure what regions are all about. I think that's kind of what I was making before I was splitting stuff and whatnot. Toolbars, the breakpoint toolbar. The processor combo toolbar. I think that's what this is here. Which, again, another cool thing is now I have a very visual place to see what COFF files are loaded up to which chip. Because there's I think it's with the... What I'll probably do, probably the next helpful step for me will be to take one of the existing examples I've already done and create a new session file in Codescape around that. Just to get an idea of what that's all about. But there is a SBL example I have that uses both SH2 chips. That might be interesting to see how that looks from this debugger standpoint and get a better idea of when using both processors, what are we looking like? I'm assuming it's going to be multiple panes like we see here. Like we have basically this whole output is representing processor 1 in terms of what's in the registers, the source code based on COFF and all that, and then any kind of standard in, standard out window outputs here that are being redirected here. So I assume processor 2 would do the same thing, or heaven forbid I have multiple target systems, I can do the same thing and run them all from Codescape, basically, if I wanted to. If I had that all in the same SCSI chain, or maybe even a different SCSI chain. I don't know. I don't know the capabilities of all that. But that's that, man. I think as I work through this, I would be very curious to see what your experience with your flavor of Codescape is. If you're finding it useful as a development tool, obviously, at least my version, it's not an editor. It's just a debugger, and good. I wanted a better debugger. I got a better debugger, and it actually consumes COFF files produced by GCC. So good. It's not just, well, we can do assembly, otherwise good luck, Godspeed. Another, if it could be figured out, another cool thing with something like this too would be there are USB. Basically, it's similar to the cart dev, but they're like USB interfaces plug into the back of the Saturn as well that people use for development. If you can get that read in something like this too, I don't know if anyone has those hooked up to like a modern day debugger. But that'd be something else cool. So really, you can monitor the memory live on the Saturn. That's freaking helpful, especially given the architecture. That'd be nice. Just kind of have all the integration happen. But again, how does this define targets and all that? I might be getting to a point where I need to sort of ping what you call someone who's worked on Codescape before, just to get a read of the land, if they remember at all, if it's all just baked into a given executable, or if there's something I can override or config. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have any markings. There's a sticker that seems to be some generic settings that you see with other folks using those dongles. But that's really it. I'm not, like, I tried to do some quick searching of, I'm looking for a security dongle for Codescape Pro, for example, and I didn't have a good means of finding that. Yeah. I guess that's the next thing we could even look at here is how do we dump the dongle? because at least having that going would be helpful. I think there's value in it. Like, it's some folks who commented on the things I posted today are like, why don't you just patch it to not look for the dongle, which I'm sure there's a hex edit somewhere you can do that, and it might even be just as simple as somewhere baked in the executable is a very simple conditional that checks to see if the dongle is good or not, and you just override that with an always yes. But I haven't done enough hex editing to get that done in a timely manner without just stumbling through it and picking it up. It might be worth doing in the future for sure, and just in general learning how to do such hackery, but I am not in that spot yet, so it would just take me a lot of time. So in the meantime, I think at least providing a dump of the current dongle and making that widely available to folks would probably be of high value, so that way there is a path, if you wish, to get the software running. Yeah, I mean, to each their own in terms of opinions and things like that, but regardless, I think at least getting to a working spot first, so if people want to use the software they can, is probably the biggest boon. So let's see what it takes to get this stuff dumped. Let's see if we can get that done here tonight. I sent you a link before, I think, so I gotta look that up again. Or maybe you sent me the link. So we talked. We had convo. H5 dump.exe. What's that? That may not be a tonight thing, so it looks like there's a little more involved with setting up those tools. Yeah, and that's assuming Codescape Pro is using the same thing too. But it looks like, for the brief reading I was doing there, for dumping the dongle, there may or may not need to be additional drivers installed in a system to dump the dongle. Looks like Aladdin has some tooling out there for handling these kinds of dongles, so there's a lot of folks who typically use those drivers. And there's some DOS applications to do some sort of dump, maybe debugging the build here. Here it is. Version 1.0.1, build 16. That's the HASP ID there. That's what I got. Let's see here. I took a picture of the dongle before too. Let me see if I still have that. Okay, so that demo, I can show you that demo. I have that demo. It ain't what you think. Not to burst bubbles or anything. The demo is actually a series of videos. Bring up, I think I might, yeah. So we go into, yeah, the Codescape IDE demo. This is the Codescape IDE demo. It's using Lotus Screen Cam 97 to show demonstrations of the functionality of Codescape in a series of videos. Yeah, because this is the first path I went down, believe it or not. File open. I mean, it's a good way of like showing how some of the stuff works. See, it's like a full screen video. I don't know if there's any audio to it, is there? Nope. But, yeah, the value I saw with this was, number one, seeing what people are using for editors, hey, MS Dev, but also kind of an introduction to how to use the Codescape interface for a tool. But yeah, see, build 9. Not too far from what I'm doing. So yeah, that's what that is. Certainly a good effort, but yeah, unfortunately that's excuse me. That's a spot I've already been in with some of this. But yeah, so this will still prove very useful with me navigating Codescape as a whole, just to get around the language barrier stuff. But yeah, it's kind of where we're at. Yeah, I got it right there. And yeah, even a little readme for what you need to set it up. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah. Now probably next step is do a little deeper dive on the dongle dumping stuff. Get that in some form archived. If I'm a kind fellow, work out a workflow to rewrite or emulate that dongle dump as something useful on a system, and then say, all right, you may need to do some work on your own personal setup, but you should be able to run this now. So go nuts, have a ball. And I think that without additional help or hacking, that's probably about as close as we can get to having this properly preserved. Don't have to do any kind of, I mean, I might still scan the Japanese manuals because they look nice, but you don't necessarily need to because the English manuals are on the CD. So that is already documented in, honestly, a much better format than me scanning paper and having to read the scans in a PDF. But that's all it's in the box. I can do some physical scans in the box too, but we kind of have that around for some folks documenting things already. So, yeah, it's Codescape. That's where we're at. If someone were to patch this for English, that'd be super duper, but I think it's less of patching this to English, more of figuring out how to load this target device onto a newer version. Otherwise, looks like this is a help. Yeah, it's help. And this is project session stuff. Yeah, because otherwise I am running blind in a lot of this with the character rendering issues. And so yeah, also so next time might be setting up an NT system with this setup. Maybe migrate over to Windows 2. Maybe that means I move this whole system to Windows 2000. That is certainly in the cards. And then I at least minimize some of my problems. That's certainly a possibility. I'm definitely not going to go with Japanese flavor of Windows 98. Like, that's not going to be helpful, actually. But yeah. So that's all I really want to show, I think. Because otherwise, it's going to be sitting here watching me read. And that ain't going to be great. And it's getting a little late to play games on my end. So, yeah. Now we've documented Codescape-ish. Yeah, I know, Windows 2000. God bless Windows 2000. This again, I'll have to check with my buddy, see if he still has that dual Pentium 3 system. If he does, I might be like, yo, if you still got that, maybe it's time we build a dual Pentium 3 development system for the Saturn. And that could be baller. That would be sick. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll probably link this stream to Saturn Dev, or if anyone's interested in watching me not do a whole lot with Codescape. I don't know yet. But, yeah. So, take her easy.